All right, so in this demo video, we're going to go over Anchore's static STIG checker tool. And what we're going to showcase is how you can take an image that lives in any image repository, pass that over to Anchore's static STIG checker tool. It'll evaluate a STIG based on a STIG profile that can be either manually passed or Anchore will automatically detect the base operating system distribution and apply kind of the best match for that STIG based on the distribution. What we'll also showcase is how you can view those STIG results and then resolve issues based on the remediation actions that are specified by OpenSCAP, making the modifications to a Docker file, rerunning Anchore's static STIG checker tool to then validate that the fixes have actually indeed been made and that you're in a good place to hand over the evidence to a accrediting authority. One note is you'll see in this demo, Michael is running this locally on his machine. Another use case for this would be to run it in a pipeline, exporting the same artifacts that we'll showcase in the demo within artifacts from your CI jobs. And with that, I'll pass it over to Michael.
Share my screen here. We'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so here we're looking at the static STIG tool. It just runs as a bash script. Like Connor said, we can run it in a pipeline and kind of get the same effect. But for this demo, we're just going to run it locally. So essentially what I have here is a copy of the UBI8 image that I just pushed up to my registry on Docker Hub. We're going to go ahead and run the tool against it. It's going to pull down that image. And then from there, it'll determine the base image, like Connor said, and then it'll pick the appropriate STIG profile to run. So we'll just give it a second here. And we should see some of the checks start firing. There we go. So the evaluation started. We're going to start seeing our checks here, just in a human readable format. And something to note is these are all going to get dumped out locally. So we'll take a look at those in just a second. Okay. So there it's done. It will have dumped out those locally here. So these are from a few previous runs. We can see that we've got our results here in two formats. So we have a STIG viewer format. So this can be loaded into STIG viewer. You can apply your checklist over it and take care of things that way. And then another way is with these OSCAP results, the HTML page. So we'll take a look at that now. So here's our results from that. If we scroll down, we'll see our rule results. So because these are static images at the moment, there's going to be quite a few that are not applicable. But we do see here we have 3 failed. So these are applicable. They were checked in this image and they did fail those checks. So we can go down and take a look at them. So we've got a couple things here. So we have verifying file hashes with RPM. We can click on this, kind of dig into what exactly is going on. We'll get a description, some identifiers where we can go get more information on this. And then the key part here that we're going to take a look at is this remediation shell script. This will help us with actually fixing this within the Docker file. So we don't really have to deal with this down the road, even when it's running live. So open this up, we can see, okay, so we have this shell script. And since this one is kind of short, we'll show how this will run in a Docker file. And then we have another one that we'll actually copy in. So we've got 3 lines here that we need to actually run. So we'll go back here. We've got a Docker file that's going to actually remediate this. So we can see we're actually pulling that same UBI8 image. This is just from the upstream from what I was pulling. We're going to copy in this remediation script, which we'll take a look at in a second because that's another fix. And then this first run statement right here is correcting the issue that we saw that failure for. So you can see they're all the same. So we're going to kind of take care of this one. We'll go back and take a look at some of the other failures. This one is verifying file permissions with RPM. This one also has a remediation shell script. We ran this earlier. This is kind of longer, and this one will just take too long to run, so we won't actually be fixing this in this demo. But it is something that you can put into a script like we'll see in the next failure, copy in and run during the build process, so you don't have to deal with this later. And the last one we'll look at here is configuring the cryptography policy. So again, description, rationale, warnings, everything informational around this particular finding. And if we take a look here at our remediation shell script, gives us this script a little more complicated than we'd want to do in just a run statement in our Docker file. So we can take this and we'll put it into an actual script in here. So we have fix 1, and this is that script, the remediation script that we just saw. And in our Docker file, we're going to copy that in here. and then we're going to make it executable, and then we'll actually run it during the build process. So we'll go ahead and build this. I've already done that. And we'll run our STIG against it again. So same thing, static STIG. This STIG testing is what I pushed up with this particular image. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this. Just like the previous one, it's gonna download that image. It's gonna apply the profile on top of it, same profile as we saw before. And then we'll get our results. And we can kind of see that some of these are remediated before we even get this image to our runtime environment, where we'd have to deal with these anyway. About evaluation starting. We'll let this start firing on some of these. And at this point, we're done. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this second file here. So we go down, we can see we just have one failure, and it's going to be that one that we actually didn't run the script against, but these other two, the verify file hashes with RPM, and then our cryptography, both are passing now. So this is kind of showcasing this, how we can, like STIGs are meant to be applied for the most part on running, the containers, VMs, that sort of thing. But we can take some of those rules when applicable and shift that left into our build process so they don't have to be corrected farther down the line, making the end, security teams' lives a lot easier when they're actually running STIGs against running containers. They don't have to deal with some of these rules that may or may not take a long time. And yeah, so we got this done. We got our same results, and now we also have the same two file types. We have our HTML, which we just took a look at, and our STIG viewer results.